Good evening and welcome. My name is Philip Malbranche. I'm a board member and consumer advocate leader at Care for the Homeless. And would like to welcome you to the 2022 Homeless Persons Memorial Day observance. This is the first time in 3 years that we've met in person. And I'm honored to have you here with us. Each year around the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, we come together to remember our neighbors who died in the past year without stable housing. We gather the names from peers, advocates, service providers, and community members. And shortly we will recite each name while lighting a candle in their memory. I would like to acknowledge our great partners at Urban Pathways who organized this observance with us. We want to recognize many allies participating in our program today as readers and eulogizers, and our dedicated consumer advocates who've worked so hard to put together a meaningful observance. We also want to thank the Department of Homeless Services, First Deputy Commissioner Molly Park, for joining us today. We gather at this memorial for two key reasons. First, we come together for the sad and solemn recognition that we have lost hundreds of our neighbors in New York City. Again, this year. We remember these individuals and acknowledge their lives by reciting their names and lighting a candle in their honor. Over the last 7 years, our observance has memorialized over 1,700 individuals, 340 of which will be remembered today. Each a memory that will live on and burn bright. Second, we want to bring attention to the tragedy of homelessness. Homelessness is a public health emergency that has been at crisis levels for decades. One that we have the ability to end if we can galvanize the political will needed for significant policy change. The solutions to end homelessness are grounded in greater access to comprehensive health care, affordable housing, supportive services to help individuals not only meet their basic needs, but thrive in their community. The memorial focuses attention on collectively recommitting efforts to prevent and end homelessness. Our hope is that each of us will continue to raise our voices for our brothers and sisters, understanding that it is within our power to put an end to the devastating and traumatic effects that homelessness inflicts on those who experience it. We hold these services to remember those who were not given the basic human right of having a stable roof over their head. We hope to offer some dignity in their remembrance. Finally, we might want to reflect during the season on a piece of wisdom literature from the Jewish tradition. In the book of Proverbs, it reads, "The rich and the poor have a common bond. The Lord is the maker of them all." Thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening. I'm Adam Hecht, Executive Committee member of Urban Pathways Board of Directors. It's an honor to be joining you here tonight for this important remembrance and I'm thankful for the ability to gather in person once again. I'd like to thank our dedicated partners at Care for the Homeless, our consumer advocates, my fellow board members, and the staff at Urban Pathways who provide services with compassion and dedication, even in the most challenging of times. I'd also like to thank our generous hosts here at Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church for providing us with the space and support to gather for this important occasion. Tonight, we join together to mourn over 300 New Yorkers whose lives were devastatingly impacted by homelessness. We mourn New Yorkers lost to chronic illness, to cancer, and to medical complications. We mourn New Yorkers lost to substance abuse disorders and the effects of mental illness. We mourn New Yorkers who did not survive the extreme elements while sleeping outdoors. We mourn New Yorkers whose lives were stolen by violent acts. For all, homelessness and poverty created hardships that left them more susceptible to these devastating outcomes. Housing instability is the greatest challenge facing our city, but it is solvable. We can create opportunities for housing for all in need with creativity, cooperation, and determination. This is a unique occasion that brings together our community. Service providers, people with the lived experience of homelessness, advocates, government partners, and concerned community members have gathered here tonight in shared purpose. As we collectively reflect, let this observance serve as a reminder that it will take all of us coming together to solve this crisis. At the forefront of this movement must be the voices of those with lived experience who know most what is needed. We will not forget the lives of our neighbors lost this year. As part of this remembrance, you've each been provided with a candle to be used during the reading of names. Let the light of these candles represent the souls lost but not forgotten. Thank you for joining us.
This year, we put out a call for poems and short stories for our community to include in the memorial. And we're humbled by the response we received from those who chose to share their words with us. We chose 2 poems to read today. The first poem, titled Homelessness, was written and we read by Josie Ferreira. The second, titled The Darkest Evening of the Year, was written by M.A. Dennis and will be shared right before we begin the reading of the names. Josie Ferreira, please come up.
Where are you from? Those are metaphors. Who you are, those are metaphors. What do you do? Those are metaphors. What matters is you. You think your place in the world. You think that you don't belong nowhere. In looking, you don't see you belong everywhere. In the house you are born, the family that welcome you, the place where you grow up, you receive love. Someone gave you love. The doctor who saved you, the girl who fed you, the tip I gave you between my fingers, the dog that licked your head, the blanket that covers you, the space you slept in, the water you drink, the food you ate. But you want more than that. The fee scares you. The rules make you tired. The shelter living group doesn't make you happy. It's time to eat, it's time to sleep. But you're not hungry, you don't want to sleep. In your head, you have a lot of thoughts. Many at the same time. You are here, but you don't want to stay here. You're gone. Now you think you belong somewhere. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Reflejo en español, leído por Félix Pitman. Nos reunimos para reconocer a nuestros vecinos que fallecieron este año mientras se encontraban en una vivienda inestable o debido a los factores estresantes de la falta de vivienda. En esta, la ciudad más rica de los Estados Unidos, tenemos una de las poblaciones más grandes de personas y familias sin hogar y desafortunadamente muchos mueren sin tener la comodidad de una vivienda estable. Hoy reconocemos a estas personas y reconocemos sus vidas leyendo sus nombres. Mi esperanza es que la lista de nombres que leemos reciba el reconocimiento que merecen y que la lista se acorte cada año. Que esto sea un testimonio de la importancia de un hogar estable para la salud, el bienestar y la seguridad de todas las personas. Es una tragedia diaria cuando hogares tienen que preocuparse de cómo proveerán las necesidades más básicas para sobrevivir. A través de todas las estadísticas sobre personas sin hogar, es fácil olvidar que las cifras corresponden a personas reales con vidas y familias. Debemos recordar sus vidas y debemos comprometernos a poner fin a este sufrimiento innecesario. Gracias.
The darkest evening of the year. The longest too. Frost hangs in the air. No resting, peace absent. Before I sleep, there are candles to light, promises to keep, names to say. The coulds, the shoulds, the woods are lovely talk, but there are miles to walk and unknowns to memorialize. This heart is a tomb inscribed with one word, homeless, beating continuously till the shortest day is made to stop. We will now begin the part of the program where we will recite the names of our brothers and sisters that passed away this year. We have several consumer advocates and community members joining us as readers. We will also be providing eulogies for many of the individuals we are honoring tonight. You will notice that there are duplicates of certain names. Each person, whether full name, first name, or nickname, is a different person. During this part of the memorial, we take the opportunity to recognize them by saying their name out loud, while their names are projected on the screen. A bell tolls and a candle is lit in their honor. I would also like to remind you that you may light the candles that were set on your seat as soon as the reading begins. Thank you.
Iran, AB, Abdullah Kadabali, AB, Anonis, Adrian Solomon, AG, AJ, AQ, Alexis Dove, Alexis, Alexis F, Alexis Kupande Palau, Alfred G, Amanda Jones, Andre Owen, Andre S,
Angel. Angel Mujas. Angela Harris. Anthony Castro. Anthony Reyes. Antoinette Hayes. Antonio. Arthur. Arthur Picaro. Aubrey Loomer. Evanella Phillip. BB. Beverly. Odaida Rasanti. Boris. Butra. Brian Leslie. Bryant.
We know that homelessness impacts its victims' health, dignity, and quality of life. We also know that in the end, it robs people of years of life. Given that unstable housing is both a cause and consequence of poor health, it is not surprising that people experiencing homelessness have worse health outcomes and higher rates of premature death than the general population. In this, the richest society on earth, we tolerate devastating health disparities based on the color of a person's skin or the amount of money they have in their bank account. Many unhoused people present medically as decades older than their actual age due to the stressors of poverty and unstable housing. Tonight, we acknowledge people who died in the condition of homelessness, many of them prematurely. Some died after they were placed into permanent housing, succumbing to the accumulated health deficits not experienced by their age peers. Several of the individuals we are honoring tonight died shortly after obtaining permanent housing. It's true that their deaths were more dignified because they were housed, but their deaths were the result of homelessness nonetheless. The causes of premature death among people experiencing homelessness include lack of access to healthcare, poor nutrition, trauma, and exposure to the elements. We should be clear that these outcomes are the result of public policy choices we make in the United States. One theme we all should take away from this evening's program is that we can make different and better choices. We must reject the idea that the deaths of people experiencing homelessness are in some way an inevitable or acceptable consequence of their circumstances or their personal failings. Tonight, we honor all those who lost their lives in this past year in New York City as a result of the condition of homelessness. And we also hold ourselves accountable to work harder and more effectively in the next year to ensure that we have fewer names to read this time next year. Thank you very much.
Kara. Gary. Carlos. Carlos. Carol Parker. Carol Buzone. Carol Victor. Carter. Chancey. Charles. Charles Chuck Daly. Chris Stack. Christiana Roberts. Christina. Christine. Christoph. Born in July of 1983, Christopher gave the world an unmatched spirit. East New York SRO for veterans was introduced to Chris in 2019. Within a matter of days, Chris became a familiar face and a personality both in our program and in the community. Chris had a great sense of self-awareness and shared his happiness with everyone he met. He was kind to his fellow residents and staff. Whenever staff or residents spoke to him, you would be greeted with a big, bright smile. Chris was adamant about living his life in his own words, as he said, freely and with little to no regret. Be easy, Chris. Life is a modest place to live. Christy Rose.
Conrado. Craig C. Curtis. Damon. Damon Gear. Daniel. Daniel Torres. Darnell. Daryl Fogey. David Aponte. David Lopez. David McGriff. David Miller. Dawood Fabianski. DC. DD. Dean A. Dolores.
Demond. Denise. Denzel. Derek. Derek McDuffie. Devin. Dinah. Dion S. DJ. Donna. Donna. DW. Dwayne Foster. Dwayne Thomas. Earl. Earl. Edward LaFay. Edwin.
So if you live in the New York metropolitan area, you've been bombarded by news stories about the homeless. And in most cases, they identify them as individuals who are a threat to the community. The reality is that what we know is that homeless individuals are more likely to be victimized by others than they are to attack anyone in the community. So tonight, we want to take a moment to acknowledge those individuals who died on the streets of the city while homeless. We honor those who passed away this year due to homelessness, but we also want to remember those who died as a result of violence. Unfortunately, every year we lose people due to violence. Being homeless puts you in a position where you are vulnerable, you are exposed. And the reality is that there are people out there who will specifically target individuals because of their status. It was shocking when we heard earlier this year that 5 individuals were being targeted and killed, shot in New York City and in Washington, D.C. by an individual, specifically targeted them because of their homeless status. Many of these incidents of violence against homeless individuals go unreported in the media. So when a homeless person is attacked on the street, it's rare that it gets the type of news coverage that you get when a commuter or a citizen. Everybody is valuable, everybody is important. So it's important to acknowledge every individual who's harmed. So I want to read the names of several of the individuals and remember several of the individuals who passed away this year as a result of violence on the street while they were homeless. So I'll start with Abdullah Pagliali, Jamie Lavender, and Kwame White. We also want to remember people whose names we don't know, because again, many of the people who die, we don't hear about it, it's not reported, they're invisible. And so we want to make sure that we bring some visibility to them tonight. So we mourn these individuals, because of the circumstances they were in. We want to make sure that while they may not have been visible in life, that they are visible in death. These are individuals who walk the streets of the city with no support, with no home, with no hope. And unfortunately, we lost it. So we want to go forward. We want to commit ourselves as we go forward to ensure that we do whatever we can do to make sure that next year, as George said, there are fewer names, and we need to stop the victimization of homeless New Yorkers. Thank you.
Edwin. Elaine Caesar. Elizabeth Caruso. Elvis Garcia. Emmanuel. Ingrid Winston. Anna Etienne. Eric Johnston. Eric Brown. Aaron. Ernest Boynton. Ernestine Murray. Ernesto. Italka. Euclides Melendez. Eugene. Evander McCray.
Evelyn Hostos. Fatima. Felipe Hernandez. Felix Rivera.
It's no secret that Felix was a VOA favorite. I know, you're not supposed to have favorites. Felix was a kind person, wherever you met, wherever you saw him. He always had a good joke, story, or a warm smile. Felix was not your average person in any way. For those who knew him well, knew that he was kind-hearted and respectful. He also knew that his life was not easy. Felix suffered from depression and heroin addiction while in the shelter. It didn't help being away from his family, primarily his two daughters. He often spoke highly of them and talked about one day reuniting with them. We would often give him passes overnight so he can spend with his family. Felix always participated in VOA events and trips, and he had this uncanny luck to win every single raffle. One memory our staff shared is that Felix, during one of our last bowling trips back in August, he said he did not know how to bowl, but would give it a try. I mentioned to Felix, every time VOA has an event, you win something. Felix smiled and replied, well, watch me win today. His team did come first place, and Felix was the winner. Felix, you will love and will always be loved.
Fernando. Lloyd Burton. Frankie. Freddie. Frederick Nelson. Frederick Ince. Gabrielle. Gary Wells. George. JT, I'm sorry. JT. George. Geraldine. Gilberto. Jezebel. Graham.
Gregory Olas. Guarino. Harry Morgan. Hector Quijano. Henry. Heriberto M. Herman. Ildefonso. IR. Irene. Ismael. Ayana Cushenberry. Jamie Patrick Caballero Lavender. Jameen Roland, AKA Jamar John.
James. James Bentley. James Frith. James Harvey. James Small. Jamise. Jane Doe. Janusz Jakubowski. Javier. Jean. Jeanette Furlong. Julan. Jennifer. Jariah Piddington. Jasoda. Jesse Adams. Jesus. Jimmy.
Here today because James Harvey was a good friend of mine. I met him through one of the events that we hosted. We call them Meet Your Neighbor dinners, where we bring our neighbors living in homes and neighbors living in local shelters to have dinner side by side. James and I stayed really close. We even did a video together. He even got housing and then came back and helped me make videos to help educate people on homelessness and how to make an impact in their neighborhood and how to build connection and how to connect with our neighbors on the street. And sometimes it could be intimidating. He helped create a video all about how to teach us how to approach our neighbors. He was a good friend of mine, and I remember the last days I spent with him in the hospital, and he was just always filled with love. So thank you all for being here today.
Jimmy Golden. Joan. Jocelyn. Joelle. John Doe.
One reason we observe Homeless Persons Memorial Day is to provide a fitting memorial for so many who might otherwise have no memorialization at all. Every year, our list of names includes a Jane Doe and a John Doe in recognition of those who passed away on the streets of New York City with their identities unknown. If we were to read Jane Doe or John Doe for each person whose name we do not know, our list would be far longer. Homelessness and poverty needlessly rob these brothers and sisters of their health, their dignity, their lives, and even of their names. We pause to think of these people tonight and to remember and memorialize each of them. We know these individuals had a life of value, a life filled with stories and wisdom that can no longer be shared with our community. We know they also left vulnerable to the elements and at times to violence. There is no greater sorrow than burying someone with their identity unknown on Hart Island. We know of at least 15 New Yorkers who passed this year without the ability to identify them. Perhaps you may know them also. An anonymous person on the street corner who was there one day and gone the next. The unknown woman who was regularly engaged by a street outreach team at a bus stop. Or the unknown man who passed away in his sleep on the sidewalk. An unknown man who was found dead by violence in a subway station. We pause to remember them and commit ourselves to ending this indignity of being without a home. We honor them all here tonight. We need not know their names to know that their lives were precious and of value. At this time, we will toll the bell 15 times, one for each of the unidentified New Yorkers we know passed this year. May their souls rest in eternal peace.
John Keogh, John Majeski, John Maloney, John Prendergast, Jonathan Register, Jonathan, Jorge, Jose, 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 Jose Santos, Joseph, Joseph Bielski, Joseph Gonzalez.
Joseph Taylor. Ova. Joy. JS. JT. Juan. Joel. Julio. Julio Rosa. Justin. Justin. Caitlin. Kenneth. Kevin Jordan. Kiana. Kwame White.
Kwame Isaiah White was born on September 4, 1992, and passed on July 26, 2022. Just shy of his 30th birthday. Kwame was a kind, gentle person. He always extended his love, kindness, and sense of family with all who he came in contact with, especially those in his LGBTQ community. Kwame was never scared to be who he was and knew he had all the love of his mother to be himself. He never failed to let people know that there was something to live for. Even though the hard times, he knew his mother and extended family were always there to help him. This memorial saddens me every year. No one wants to lose their loved ones, and no one should lose their loved ones to housing instability. I want everyone to understand that this is about housing and the basic needs of our people, every single member of the human race has a right to feel safe and secure and to live a full and dignified life.
Luana Warren. Lakeisha J.
Lamont Garrett. Laquina Singletary. Larry. Levon G.
Lavanji. Lavanji was born and raised in Harlem. She grew up in a middle-class home environment, worked as administrative assistant at City College. She completed high school. Went to Brockport State. She left in 3 years. She took interest in real estate, sales, dealing with life and life terms, long experience incarceration, eventually led to her street homelessness. She was introduced to Urban Pathways in 2014, when she became a client at the drop-in center of the area, and she was placed at Travelers Safe Haven. I don't think we ever get used to this. I think it's really hard for me because I've known Levon for many, many years. Just to put a little ad lib on Levon, she used to, I did a lot of outreach with Levon, and she used to see me on 9th Avenue and say, Mr. Lombardi, give me a job, give me a job, give me a job. And we built a lot of relationships. She would encourage her neighbors to attend wellness groups or therapy at Travelers. She was ready to prepare herself for the workforce. She really signed up for Pathways Career Enhancement, which she succeeded. And lo and behold, she was able to move on to our Scout Site program. Get a job, and she did amazing. She was one of the best success stories. Had a great sense of humor, and she did really well in the department, extremely well. Worked for years, and unfortunately, recently did not work because there were some health issues. But she had a community, and her community was also involved in the Travelers community, and they kind of moved into a site community. One of the things I loved about Levon, she never hesitated to tell us what we could do better. And I think I think we get upset over that, but I think that's really, I love it. At times I'm like, oh God, but I love it. And I love the fact that she always was able to feel comfortable to say that to all of us. You can do better, I can do better, but we need to do better. And the fact that she was unfortunately a person who, you know, that whole reduction model, that whole alcoholism model, but she was able to maintain herself, understood direction, understood achievement, understood what was right. And I have to be honest, we were all very devastated when we found out that she passed. And she has a lot of great community that we still have in our program. So we should never forget. I have to be honest, I think this last couple of years have been extremely difficult, all the losses we've had, whether it be COVID, whether it be substance, whether it be mental health, whether it be depression. I think we can't ever forget who we are and what we do. So thank you, Levon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all.
Lawrence. Lek Deniquet. Lee A. Leon. Lester Stu. Linda. Linda Ahmed. Lori. Louis Hughes.
Born in November of 1955, Lewis gave this country, state of North Carolina, in New York City, an unmatched assets during his days with us. The East New York SRO Veterans Program was introduced to Lewis in 2017. Lewis is remembered as a man full of pride and dignity. He often wore his military US Army apparel proudly. He became a familiar face and a friendly face both in our program and in the community. Lewis delighted many people with his stories and events that took place while he served his country overseas. Louis was kind and caring, and fellow residents he was always willing to help other residents. He gave us advice and insight to life, and he was sorely missed.
Luis Lopez. Lewis. Marcelo. Marek.
Maria Oliveira. Marie. Marisol Caraballo. Mark. Mary Haberek. Maureen Stanley. Maurice Murray. Melvin Ashford. Michael C.
This eulogy for Michael C. was written by Sabrina Huggins, the wellness coordinator at Ivan Shapiro House where we live. Mr. Michael C. was born on May 27, 1958. He was one of the quietest people in the residence. Mr. C. held a calm demeanor and never complained about anything. Mr. C. sadly experienced many medical issues, but despite these challenges, he continued to live life as simply as possible. When greeted, he would give a little smirk and a nod of the head. I remember him passing me in the hallway and nodding his head or speaking in only a whisper. I would take this opportunity to speak with him, but he would usually smile or answer with just one word. While Mr. C did not speak about any family members or connections outside of the residence, he was a beloved member of the Ivan Shapiro community. His quiet presence will be missed.
Michael C. Michael Carter. Michael G. Michael Harrison. Michael McGlone. Michael Miguel.
Mike, Muhammad, MR, MW, Maya, Nathaniel Booker, Nicholas, Nicole, Nolia Sanchez, Noishma, Oswaldo Antonio Rosales Chavez, Pamela Thompson, Patrick Galvin, Patrick Gifford, Paul Kroll, Pauline.
Hagan Harris, Peter T. Philippe, Quentin, Rachel Guerreri, Raphael, Raul, Raymond Garcia Rodriguez, Reginald Small, Renee, Raymond, Bernard Hicks, Richard Disick, Ricky H, Robert Fenton, Robert Blinker.
Roberto Diaz. Roberto Ramirez. Rocco. Rareto. Ronald Davis. Ronnie. Rohonda Anise. Roosevelt. Roy Brown. Rudolph. RV. Sammy. Samuel Romanes. Sandra Luna. Sing. Say Barat. SB.
As a community focused on mitigating the effects of addiction, we want to take time to remember our loved ones who we have lost to this disease. We know it can be painful to think about our lost brothers and sisters, but we want their stories to touch the lives of others who are struggling now. Our work is not finished until our communities and our families are no longer struggling with the grave costs of this disease. Substance abuse is the leading cause of death for people experiencing homelessness in New York City. Many of the names we memorialize today have been lost to it. We mourn and remember them today. We also mourn the failure of our systems to meet the needs of our neighbors. To those we have lost, your struggle has become our own. We will not idly stand by as more lives are needlessly lost. In memory of those lost to addiction, in memory of loved ones who never said goodbye, in memory of all those affected by their sudden loss, in memory of those we continue to lose tragically every day. As we remember those who struggled and passed before us, our hope is not just that they are not forgotten. Our hope is that their struggle be remembered and that our city and our country put into action proven solutions to this public health crisis.
Sean. Sharon Keith. Sean H. Sean Smith. Sheldon Hilden. Simon G. Solomon Hunt. Spence Schuyler. Stanley. Stephon. Steve Edwards. Steve Kirby. SW. Tamika. Thomas.
Tiffany Thompson. Tomodis. Tina Parta. Tony, Tanya, Troy, Tyrone Simmons, Vernon, Veronica Noel, and Victor B.
No, it's not good when I'm here again, right? Okay, so Victor, Victor B. I'm gonna read a poem from one of his workers, Joe Paul, who just really could not believe this has happened. So, old, cold, dark, lonely memories, struggle more and more. You have permission to be at rest, to wait for time's rewards. She will surely ease your burdens as she mysteriously turns seconds into minutes, hours, days, years, dust. For me, the days have come to an end, and gladly greet the golden day. For me, the days have come to an end. I rest my head in the bosom of godly grace. For you, my dear, the minutes have not turned to hours, so enjoy the days to come. Honor me, forget your sadness and your anger. For it is not the only path. Remember brighter days, passions in my heart. For my core, I indeed was a gentle breeze. I shone brightly with the sun and floated with the seas. My song has ended, I will not wait for you. So I wish you warm, bright, joyful memories, love, sweet spell. I wish you long, not farewell. A little bit about Victor. I have to say, Victor was an amazing gentleman. When you get a landlord that calls you and says he was the best tenant he ever had, you know it was good, right? He did everything, he followed everything, he just left him. He was shocked, we were all shocked. This Victor used to see me every week. Scattered site program, in a suitcase, took care of his mom. Mom was sick. He was just a gentleman, a consummate client in a way that we all experience at some point. Please don't forget all these people that we've lost. It's really been challenging the last few years. I think we've lost more people than I have experienced in my career. Every day you're like saying, what's next? And you're also asking. I think the initial thing is, what did we do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong, but we feel so responsible and so dedicated to what we do. So just keep it going, keep the light on, take care of the people, do the best you can. Thank you.
Vincent, I'm sorry, Vivian V, Wanda, Watts, William, Winston, Yolanda Evans, Zafarin, and Zolan M. Thank you.
D. White, Daquan, Deborah Ellis, E. Rivera, J. Alston, J. Lossick, Jonathan, L. Rivera, Lucy Osorio, M. Justiniano, N. Lavin, O. Rosero Jr., S. Lewis. At this time in the program, I would like to invite you to name anyone who has been lost to the impact of homelessness this year who has not yet been honored. Please speak their name aloud so we may all honor them as part of tonight's observance.
Patricia Ferguson.
James Wilder. Kenneth Foster.
Alfred Jones. Alfred Jones.
George Anthony Johnson.
Irma Swanson.
Kate Stevens.
I lost 6 of my friends last year who were homeless. When he was cycling, devastated by the big people. Cassidy and Carol from Herald Square. Jose, the dancer. Carl Logan. Arthur. And Scotty from the Upper West Side.
Thank you for adding these names to our observance tonight. As the lights dim, I now ask you to light your candle if you have not yet done so. For all who are able, please stand and raise your candle in honor of those we recognize here tonight. We will now hold a moment of silence in their remembrance. Thank you. You may be seated. We will now have a song from Jamel Coy Hudson, followed by closing remarks from Will Woods. No?
I look back on all that I've been through, and I can't understand why I cried so many times. This world can be so cruel, leaving you not knowing what to do, with no one to turn to. And I've seen my share of pain, feeling like there is nothing to gain, because everything stays the same. But I'm wiping the tears from my face. I'm going to a better place. This place can set you free. Open your eyes and come with me. We'll fly on the wings of eagles, soar to the sun that lights the sky, that shines so bright. And we'll sail on the seas of dreams and live with love and peace. Let's go to a place where everyone can learn to love and care. Care. Oh, care. Oh, care for the homeless. Yeah, yeah. Care for the homeless. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's care found here. Care found here. Somebody care. Oh, somebody care. I care. Oh, and you care. Oh, let's go to a place. Let's go to a place. We'll fly on the wings of eagles, soar to the sun that lights the sky, that shines so bright. And we'll sail on the seas of dreams and live with love and peace. Let's go to a place where everyone can learn to love and care.
As this evening's Homeless Person Memorial Day comes to a close, I want to thank everybody that's contributed to the program. This observance is not possible without community. So we're thankful to everyone who contributed to the names of those honored here, those who gave eulogies in remembrance of those they knew and may not have known, those reflections and other remarks. Special thank you to the consumer advocates for Care for the Homeless and for Urban Pathways for hosting tonight's remembrance. I would also like to thank each and every one of you that joined us here tonight for remembering the lives of our brothers and sisters that were needlessly lost to housing instability. As we depart, our hearts are filled with sorrow because we know that each one of these lives had value, they had meaning, they had purpose. Each one of these lives mattered, and they still matter. Right? So can we use the sorrow as a motivation so that we can remind ourselves of the need to continually show compassion, to continue to care? As we depart, I'd also like everybody to leave with a sense of hope. Okay, we have the opportunity where we can have more spaces like this one, where people with lived experience of homelessness, where there's advocates, where there's service providers, where there's government representatives, all in a room for a shared purpose. The crisis of homelessness is solvable through the creation of access to safe, affordable homes, alongside of the expansion of healthcare and support services for those that need them. In fact, for every New Yorker. So let's use this sorrow, let's use this grief also for motivation to advocate for the policies that would do so. Okay, we have to work together to create a reality where Homeless Persons Memorial Day is no longer necessary. As we leave each other tonight, I wish everybody safety and warmth, no matter where you might be laying your head. I ask you to hold these ones that we've lost in your heart. And if you can, hold on to your dear ones just a little bit closer. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this evening.